Welcome. Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room. As I rumble with my friend John Juricic, the Croatian Sensation, I'm Robin Adair, and great to be back rumbling along here from the west coast of Canada, talking about all the big issues that we love to chat about, and we know a lot of people love to hear about. So we're going to try to share some of these things right now on the show. And John, I guess maybe headlining, one of the things we love to talk about on this show is Donald Trump, and what a waste of space he is. What a terrible, terrible neighbor he has made the United States. The number of people traveling south for holidays now from Canada has dropped like a stone, and It gets worse all the time. And people say, well, I wonder why that's happening. Well, we know why it's happening. Canada's being threatened by Donald Trump and his administration. And it's backed up by this U.S. ambassador, Hoekstra in Ottawa, who keeps making threats as well. And the latest is around these Gripen aircraft from Sweden. King of Sweden comes to Canada along with a lot of their other senior diplomats to talk about building stronger relations with Canada, economic and otherwise. But behind it all, they want to sell their Gripen fighter jets. And right now, of course, there's the American fighter jets we already have on contract, but there's questions about, well, how many of them are we really committed to buying? Would it not be better to move to another player? And that way we don't put all of our eggs in one basket, that basket being American. And Hoekstra says, well, if you do that, you're threatening future negotiations with future NAFTA talks and all of this. And you're just thinking, he's threatening us again. I would do Griffin just to get past that, just to say, well, if you threaten us, yeah, we're going to buy even twice as many of the Swedish planes.
If anyone watches us, and I know quite a few do, and you listen to me every week, it's like, oh, we've hit bottom. It can't get any worse. And frickin' every day it gets worse. Donald Trump is clearly ruining the United States. I don't see that country emerging as one country and impacting the entire world. Everything he is doing is, by the day, is making the previous day better than today. It's remarkable. And somebody, that we chat about this with on a regular basis, who generates a whole ton of interest, is Judy Tyabji. And I think we should zoom her in.
Is Judy Tyabji here now?
She is waiting for us.
Is she standing by and holding pattern for the Rumble Room? We got to get Judy Tyabji in here right away, the former MLA commentator who graces us regularly from the Okanagan Valley. Let's bring in Judy Tyabji and see what she has to say about, Donald Trump, maybe about what's going on in BC with pipelines, a few other things that I know will be, toppermost to the poppermost in Judy Tyabji's consciousness. So let's get her on.
Actually, I'm not in the Okanagan, and it's raining a lot more than I've gotten used to. That's for sure. I'm in the Lower Mainland right now.
Oh, so you're in BC.
Yeah, just for a few days.
That's perfect.
I'm in BC.
That leads to my first question, Judy.
Yeah, okay.
Because how can we not talk about provincial politics with a former provincial MLA, a prominent MLA? What the H double sticks is going on with the right in this province? Like in about 6 months, are we going to have 15 parties?
Well, and Judy, on top of that, what's wrong with the right in the sense that they actually are ahead in the polling right now? They've done polling that shows if there was an election that David Eby would not have the most votes, but the way that the right has fractioned itself apart, I mean, he's got an open trail, doesn't he?
Well, you guys are forgetting the center as well. It's not just right and left. There's majority of voters are somewhere in the middle. And what's interesting, I was just thinking about this, that we've got two of the most outspoken, what you will call right wing, or former BC United, BC Liberal, whatever we want to call it, non-NDP. How's that?
Yes, that's great.
Two of them are relatively young female MLAs from the Okanagan, elected as conservatives, no longer sitting as conservatives. I'm talking about Tara Armstrong, very outspoken, and definitely a flashpoint for discussion. The first time that I've ever seen a premier of a province from a differing party prepared to say publicly, I support the recall of that MLA based on her private member's bill to cancel the Truth and Reconciliation Day because the genocide of Native children is a hoax. Like, what? Are we back in the 70s, 60s, before Indigenous people had the vote? And then you have Amelia Boltby from Penticton, another young, both of them are very attractive women, very outspoken, very intelligent, very much Okanagan. And Amelia Boltby standing up as an independent, taking her on. And I'm like, wow. I have to tell you, when I was elected back in my day, a young woman being elected in the Okanagan would never have been considered. Now we got two of them going head to head, former conservatives. And if nothing else, I appreciate the progress where nobody cares about their gender or their age or anything. It is a debate on ideas. And that is the fracture of the non-NDP vote right there, in my opinion.
All right,
And
but
yet,
we also have the situation, though, don't we? Of the well, there's now apparently a secret MOU that's being developed between the federal government and province of Alberta, and maybe even province of Saskatchewan involved. And David Eby is saying, I wasn't invited to the table. And they're talking they're going to unveil a pipeline that's going to be approved with a lot of caveats, approved to go to the West Coast. And,
right.
Immediately you watch the CBC's coverage and they say, well, the province will never stand for this and the First Nations will never stand for this, making it sound like there's one voice for the First Nations when we know there are a multitude of voices. And the same thing with the province, where all the polls show that the majority of British Columbians are in favor of pipelines. So do you think that David Eby, this is a long way to ramble up to this, do you think David Eby would take this as his perfect opportunity as a campaign slogan to call an election? Do you think enough British Columbians would actually vote with him to stop the pipeline?
No, no. And David Eby would have more credibility if he rode a bike to work or something, or swam across the Georgia Strait or something like that. Like, come on. Why do we, as British Columbians who all drive cars, use oil and gas, why would we prefer to buy it from someone else? We should be developing our own sovereign resource policy and practice. And at a time where our country's sovereignty is being threatened by our southern neighbor, this is the time for us to strengthen what we can do for ourselves. I mean, if British Columbia had suddenly stopped buying gas, sure, right? But people are going to actually vote with their nationality and say, you know what, since I'm buying gas, I'd rather buy Canadian gas. We do it better than anywhere else. It's the same argument that we had for LNG. And this is why I was incredibly frustrated when the NDP, before they became government, were the loudest voices campaigning against LNG, saying it was going to ruin everything. Then they get in the government. Now you can see Adrian Dick saying, well, we're bringing 10 billion in resource development and that those revenues will pay for education. Yeah, that was the plan, but it wasn't your plan, was it? Now they're going to oppose a pipeline. It's going to go through. Indigenous people have become very good at collaborating, knowing that resource development is going on in other countries. I mean, Alberta is not that far away. And look how well they've done because of the revenue from the resource sector. Why would we impoverish ourselves when we're buying gas? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so
Okay,
no, I mean,
I'm going to
I'm
go.
not surprised he wasn't invited to the meeting, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised either.
I'm
John,
going to
you have
go
a
there.
question. Go
I'm
ahead,
going to
John.
go to this tough place, difficult
Yeah.
place. One of the beauties of the Rumble Room is that Robin, obviously, context of reporter, legislative reporter, professional, this, professional, that. I am not. I am the opposite of all that. I go down the street, I talk to the cat, and that's where I get my opinion from. Okay,
The
listen.
cat?
And the occasional dog.
John
So-
lives in a
well,
cat house.
That's just fair. That's just fair and
Oh, we
balanced.
got this beautiful
balance.
balance. And I'm getting news and I'm hearing all kinds of stuff that, boy, you can't buy land in BC anymore because it doesn't belong to you. It's a fee simple's gone. The whole province is going to be taken over. Give me the facts, Judy. What is going on? Okay,
Thank you
please.
for
We're
asking for the facts.
simple guys.
Yeah, the facts are that when we go back even to the 90s, there was a decision in court, the Delgamuuk ruling, which started us on this path that we're on right now. And where I get frustrated is if we'd sat down after that ruling, and especially when the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People came out, the federal government adopted it, David Eby and the NDP adopted it. Why are we still going to court? Why are we fighting these things? Private property rights have not been affected at all. At all. And when we go to court, we will lose if we are fighting the original concept of title. And I'll tell you why. Most of British Columbia did not negotiate treaties, which means we didn't resolve title. We didn't finish the conversation with the Indigenous people of how we're going to allocate rights to, for example, resource revenue. So your private property will not be affected at all by this ruling. David Eby knows that. And so does John Rustad, which is why he got in trouble by not being strong enough on this.
What about how about those property owners on Lulu Island, though, in Richmond, who are all freaked out because the Cowichan band now say that that's their land?
That's not what that's not what they've said. And if you actually listen to the Indigenous leaders, they specifically say, we're not threatening property rights. We're just saying you need to accommodate us because we were there first, and we can prove that we were there first. You were supposed to do these deals before you built everything. Now you built everything, and now you need to accommodate the underlying issue of title. And what that means is, it's not going to really affect us. What it's going to affect is how, when we do resource deals, how it's split between large multinational corporations and the Indigenous people and the government. Okay, that's it. And then it's been happening. In fact, the Chilcotin leader came out and said, would people stop the hysteria? We've been doing it for 10 years with the Chilcotin ruling. That came out 10 years ago. And that was when Christy Clark was in, and they went and they just negotiated accommodation for the original title, and nobody noticed. And it's not going to affect us. We will still have
Judy, how come we don't have political leaders that can tell us this? I'm getting realtors whom I know who are also down the street with the cats and the dog. Anyway, and they're saying to me, how is this going to affect title? Am I going to be out of business? And I'm going, I don't know. And then, this craziness. Why can't we have mature leaders saying, this is the scenario? Judy, time for you to run.
No. Well, I thought you liked me, John. How could you? Here's the thing, is that I feel like we live in a time where the politician who scares people the most gets the most traction. So even Eby, who knows better, came out and said, well, I'm going to fix this. Well, yeah, because it's not broken, and he knows it isn't. So he can come out and say, well, we've negotiated with the natives and now we don't have to do whatever. Yeah, the only people who deserve to be at the table, I'm expecting, I'm not a judge, but in the challenge to that ruling are, the Musqueam and the Swasin. And because if Cowichan can prove that they were there first, so can those guys, because they're even closer to them. But that, to me, is an issue of the overlapping claims that we've had in British Columbia for decades. Keep in mind that Indigenous people it was illegal for them to hire lawyers until, I think, the 70s. They were not allowed to become lawyers until about that time, and they had no vote. So as soon as they started to have the ability to speak for themselves or hire people to advocate for them, they took the legal contracts and said, hey, here's some unfinished business. We need to deal with that. And what they're talking about is the crown. So really what we should be wondering is, should we pay the queen or should we share with the natives? Like, that's what it is. That's the actual heart of the argument. And all of this hysteria is really unfortunate because it's having real tangible impacts. People are feeling anxiety.
Well, and hearing developers are not able to secure loans because banks are not giving. Like, I would think that they have folks that would get what's going on and tell them the truth.
I don't think it's been clarified as clearly as you're articulating it, Judy. I mean, I don't think what you're saying is incorrect, but I don't think it's been very clearly articulated to the public or even the business community exactly what's going on. It's become a bit of a political football. But thank you for throwing your 2 cents in, because I thought what you had to say made it, well, a little bit clearer. It's not. I don't think it's clear even now. But it's clearer after we hear from Judy Tyabji. We have a little bit more of a glimmer that maybe this will eventually make some sense.
On a Zoom call, on a Zoom podcast. You heard it here first. Well, actually, to be honest, Robin, like, I was talking about this back in the days of Czech TV when Delgamuth came out talking about title. That was.
I remember when Delgamuth came out, and they worried at that time that because of Delgamuth being kind of vague and notional, that
Right.
suddenly we'd be in the muck when it came down to hard dollars and cents, which is what we're talking about now, even with allowances of pipelines and economic development, but now with who owns what. So it still has to be cleared up. But I do take the points that you've made. I think they're valid points, and no one is saying the natives, the indigenous people, shouldn't have their opportunities to share in the bountifulness of our province. It's a question, I
Yeah.
guess, of how that looks and who has to pay for it.
Well, I just want to add one more thing. People forget that I think it's about 95% of British Columbia is still Crown land. So really, we're only talking about private, fee simple title on about 5% of British Columbia. And even if we all agreed as British Columbians, no, you don't get anything, you natives, the courts are compelled to follow the law.
But you know, you
And it
hear
is
things,
law.
for example, the Kamloops Band. We own all the property where the city of Kamloops sits, and we
Yeah,
own all the property where Sun Peaks Resorts resides.
right.
Well,
Right.
that's that treads on a lot of privately owned property when they start talking that way. So you can see why people might misinterpret or in fact get a little freaked out by
But
that. But
plus, back to my original question, it's what Russ Dad has been yipping and yapping about the last 2 to 3 weeks, and it's what one of those two Okanagan MLAs who split off from are talking about, and it's
Yeah.
forming a lot of the chatter, political chatter in BC.
Well, Polyev went to Kelowna and he freaked everybody out, but he was like, he got almost a standing ovation by saying, I won't let anybody take your land away. I'm like, that's not on the table.
Hmm.
And if you actually look at the legal documents, it's never been on the table. But it is good political sound bites, and they are getting traction by freaking people out, but it's really not fair. And I wish that there were more rewards for just calm, reasoned discussion, but no, it's like what do they say? If it bleeds, it leads. So it's that kind of philosophy.
I seem to recall some of that kind of talk when I worked
Yeah.
in media there, Judy, as you
Mhm.
did.
Yeah.
So, Judy, you're one of the great liberals of all time. I mean, you were a liberal before you were a liberal when no one in the province wanted to be a liberal back in
That's
the
true.
back. I'm thinking way back in
Yeah.
the
Back,
1980s.
just back.
Back in
Yeah.
the 80s was,
Early
I guess, Gordon
early
Gibson for
80s.
a while.
Yep.
Gordon Gibson, and ironically, I think Bill Vanderzam was a liberal for 5 seconds as well. Anyway,
Yeah.
but back in the misty times when nobody thought
Yeah.
the Liberal Party was important, this fellow named Gordon Wilson. I don't know if you've met him, Judy, but he
I
came out of
might have. Yeah.
nowhere and he basically rammed himself into a debate. There was a debate between the Socreds and the NDP, and he said, "Well, the BC Liberals, which was the BC Liberals deserve to be at the table," and he made
Yeah.
a very good remark where he had the two Harcourt and Rita Johnson were arguing back and forth, and he stood back and said, "And this is what's wrong with the province of British Columbia today," and people thought,
Boom,
and suddenly all
17
these
seats.
BC Liberals get elected, including Judy Tyabji, who showed up from
Mm.
the Okanagan full of vim and vigor. And so you are a longtime liberal. That's a big preamble for a longtime liberal.
Mm.
So, a report card now on the prospects of liberals ever raising their heads again provincially. Is it
Ooh.
because as you pointed out, the conservatives, the right, maybe that's not representative of a lot of people in the province, but the BC Liberals went down in flames, and
Yeah.
can they rise again, Judy? Would you expect that's going to happen? How can a right coalition possibly stand again against the NDP anytime soon?
Well, there's two parts to my answer. First of all, I think it is inevitable that we will see a Liberal Party of BC come back in British Columbia because there are many of us who are liberals. I might be a right-wing liberal, so I can be comfortable in some of those things, but I'm definitely a liberal. And yeah, it was, I think, 1982 when I started getting involved in the Liberal Party in the Okanagan. Can you imagine? That was Socrat Strongham. But my mom was an NDP, or my dad was a Socrat, so it was kind of safe for me.
Right.
Anyway, and the second part of my answer is that it's already starting in Vancouver. We have municipal elections around British Columbia in about a year, and there is a Vancouver Liberal Party that's just formed for the municipal election. And there's a very well-known business person, Kareem Alam, is running for. He's, I guess, the nominee for mayor of Vancouver. He was the um, chief of staff for Ken Sim, the current mayor. He's been around federal Liberal politics for a long time. Now, my own prediction is no one's going to be in a rush to start a BC Liberal Party because the federal Liberals have now been in for a long time. And we know that in Canada, frequently, if you've got a federal Liberal Party, then the Conservatives tend to rise provincially and vice versa. If the Conservatives are in, that's when the Liberals will rise. So I think that Carney will be in for a little while. That's my own feeling. I don't think Poilievre is necessarily going to ignite a lot of love from Canadians.
I don't think
Maybe
Poilievre's going to survive, Judy.
maybe not. And now if he doesn't make it, and if Carney gets blamed for a lot of things that are going wrong, like grocery prices or too much rain or something, then we could see a new Conservative leader become Prime Minister. That would be the opening for a BC Liberal Party. And I think that since One BC, in my opinion, are so far right that they haven't, they won't be able to get a lot of traction. There is a party, Centre BC, that started in Vancouver with the former BC United MLA. And they are doing the kind of thing that a progressive Liberal Party would do in BC. They are carving out that kind of middle ground, sort of small business, regional economic development, social justice, that sort of thing. So I'm watching them carefully. You started this by saying that there are more voters who wouldn't vote for EB than who would vote for somewhere else. And the question is, who else, really? I mean, it's a mess, but we don't have to answer that question anytime soon. We've got about a year for the non-NDP voters to figure out what they're doing, I think.
But Judy, okay, I'm listening to you, and that okay, that makes sense. That's great. Maybe I'm going.
You're making too much sense, Judy. It's a problem for us.
I'm going. Let's go. February
Yeah.
election. Horgan did it. Horgan did it.
Yeah,
EB
but
could
he
learn
did
from
it
him.
during COVID, didn't he?
Yeah.
Horgan did it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He ran a COVID campaign.
Yeah.
He did.
When he
I
didn't need
think
to.
that, look, John, you could be right. I mean, Evie could do what many politicians do. Look at Ford did that as well in Ontario, and it
Yeah.
paid off for him. So maybe Evie will run. Maybe he'll get a renewed mandate. But the clock will be ticking no matter what. The non-NDP vote is not organized anyway. Will they be organized in a year? I don't know.
The bloodletting has to kind of get itself out of everybody.
Yeah,
I have a question
and
for
I
you,
don't.
Judy. I have a question for
Yeah.
you. I'm going to take
Okay.
us now to the federal scene.
Okay.
Yet again, I'm the guy on the street. I'm talking to my buddies. I'm talking to the trees. I'm talking to the animals.
Maybe
And
horses.
He's like Dr. Doolittle that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good
Chipmunks.
one.
It's a song and everything.
I'm
I
a
like
man
to
of the
talk
man
to
on the
the
street.
animals.
So I'm watching, and I voted for Carney, and I love what I said back in the spring, and it's all over the place doing this. How come I don't? Okay, you're a person with a political pulse. You're feeling it. How come I don't feel excited about this? How come I don't feel like this is really where we're? Why is there something wrong between what he's doing and the communications to Canadians, or what?
Well, I guess I would ask you, why do you feel you should be excited by federal politics?
Because I want the country to just be the best in the world and be the best hockey team and beat Trump into the ground and take that
Right.
ambassador and throw him into the Arctic Ocean. That's what I want to
Yeah.
have happen.
Well, I mean, I suppose that we have been trained to look for entertainment from our political area, and I kind of feel like that's kind of wrong, especially in British Columbia. Like we've been
But isn't
crazy
that how we
entertained.
vote? Isn't that how we vote? Come on.
I mean, but we're getting the governments we deserve based on it, to be honest.
Mhm.
And I always say in a democracy, we get the governments we deserve. And I'm not that excited about our governments in BC for a while. I mean, they come and go. They do a few good things, but overall, I think we could do a lot better. Especially when I said earlier, like we've got over 90% of our land is crown land, and we are a resource-based economy. All we'd have to do is better management of our resource development, value-added manufacturing, regional economic development. We'd be wealthy. So that's my BC perspective. But going back to your question, why you're not excited, I don't think that you can be excited when we're still facing an existential threat. I mean, there are so many question marks about what will happen. Look at the last year. It was only roughly a year ago that Trump was elected. He wasn't sworn in until January. The whole world has changed so much, and it's going to keep changing. And there are signs of perhaps a bit of hope. I think that the new mayor of New York offers a lot of hope. In my opinion, he's young, he's bright, he's diplomatic. Although he is a Democrat and he says he's a democratic socialist, he was able to meet with Trump and be civil. And I do feel that we have to respect the voters. The voters elected President Trump, and they elected Zoran Madani. So he understood that. He kept saying, some of my voters voted for Trump. And so on that basis, he said, let's stick to what we can agree on, which is people can't afford to live. And honestly, John, I think I'm not trying to be negative, but things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And what I mean is, we're still having extreme weather events. We're still having supply chain issues. Groceries are going to be more expensive. We have not, in my opinion, focused on food security very well in terms of regional planning for food security. In the Okanagan, we have apples falling to the ground, unpicked, because BC tree fruits went under. BC tree fruits went under. That should have been a crisis just over a year ago. 2 years in a row, most of the tree fruits are falling to the ground. Meanwhile, my grandchildren pay like $5 for a little envelope of applesauce. That makes no sense to me. So, I mean, aren't we lucky that as a treat, we can, for $5, get organic apples from wherever, made by whomever, that while our apples are falling to the ground. So we need a systemic change, and I believe it's coming. That's not sexy, it's not entertaining, it's not fun. And Carney is, I think, like an engineer. And engineers are not known for being entertaining. Their jokes aren't even funny. So, I think Carney's doing the job we elected him to do. And I mean,
know,
it would be
Judy, I get all that. I get that makes so much sense. Oh my God.
okay.
This is way too much sense coming from you. However, Canadians, especially from my Slavic roots, we like to be excited.
Right.
Vanderzam, Christy Clark.
Yeah.
Vanderzam, people are excited
Trudeau,
about Vanderzam. Yeah,
you name it. If they're exciting, I'm voting. Love his hair.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the wrong way, but isn't that what we do?
But John, aren't you excited that Justin Trudeau has a new girlfriend? I mean, that's exciting. There goes their entertainment. Like, can't we
I'm just excited that Justin Trudeau is gone. I just want to preface, because John and I don't agree on. It's funny how John is actually the guy who, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that last federal election actually voted for Mark Carney. Well, absolutely, I know somebody else on this show didn't, and yet, in retrospect, after the election, because of the moves Carney has made, I am taking much more of a wait and see attitude than I thought I would be. Because I think he is making a lot of the right moves. And a number of the moves he's making are directly out of the conservative handbook. He is going towards a lot of conservative policies. He's backing off on some of the, I think, really kind of wacky ideas that were underway under the Trudeau administration. And he's backing off, frankly, on some of Trudeau's key ministers. And I saw a couple of them on the news last night sort of trashing all this pipeline stuff. And they were talking on the show, well, Wilkinson and Jabot have so much influence. Well, no, they don't. Those are the guys that are on the way out. Carney is reshaping the federal Liberal Party. And that's the one thing you got to like about the Liberal Party, at least the national one. It doesn't really march to any particular drummer. It just likes to be in power. And if being in power means, let's go to the right for that. Let's go to the left for that. Let's giant deficits. No, let's squeeze the belt. We want to be in power. And Carney
Trudeau had a mandate to govern to the left because he got a minority government, and then he had Jagmeet Singh helping him to drive the bus. We have to remember that.
And they drove it off a cliff. They drove it off a cliff, and he would have lost in a landslide to Poilievre if he'd stayed.
You're not being too dramatic there, Robin.
Carney came in. Carney read the tea leaves about Trump, and
we're rumbling, Judy. We are rumbling now.
But people ask me, well, what do you think of Mark Carney? And I said, ask me in a year. Ask me in a year. All the things he's saying right now.
Of you, Robin.
I can't argue with a lot of the stuff he's doing, but I don't know if it's going to work. So we'll see. Ask me in a year. He might have been the greatest prime minister in the history of the country, or in a year's time, I might think we got to get rid of him. But I think, Judy, that's about the biggest compliment you can give most politicians. They can't instantaneously say they're brilliant, can you?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, and I do think the fact that you voted for Poilievre is quite interesting because, Polyev is a bit of the angry man-child these days.
Well, I
Like
didn't actually vote for Polyev. I had to vote for an MP in my riding, and I
Oh,
voted
pre-qualifying.
and I voted for the Conservative Party because I thought they had a better platform. I was tired of the Liberals and
Listen,
their
Robin, let's
platform.
just face it. You really wanted Pierre Polyev to be prime minister. We get it. We get it. But I'm really glad that you didn't win in
Well,
that
he rumbles.
because,
He rumbles. You got to like the
yeah,
rumbling. It's
Dr. Carney, I think, is going to do a better, reasonable job of putting together our economic infrastructure. But you're right. I mean, we don't know if it'll work. It's a massive change. What I was happiest about, and I mentioned this last time, is that he separated our budget into operating expenses, which he said he's going to bring down operating expenses using technology, AI, efficiencies, fantastic, and capital. Those investments, I mean, as we all know, we do our best at strategy in investments, but you don't know how it's going to work until you actually see the results.
So
But he has
Judy,
to do something.
okay, here's where I'm
Yeah.
going with this. Okay, let's keep this
Okay.
going.
Okay.
Because the rational objective sort of, academic mind, I get all that Carney stuff that he's doing. But
Yeah.
I'm also into digital marketing, I'm into video marketing, and I get also
Yeah.
all of that side of things. And I talk to, it turns out, a bunch of my grandkids are in hockey, so I get to chat with a bunch of younger people.
Yeah.
Millennial X, Millennial Y, whatever. They're certainly a lot
Yeah.
younger than I am. They are not reading any newspapers. They're not reading
Right.
they're not watching any TV. They're getting all of their news from the internet.
and the
Okay.
rumble room.
And well,
And
hopefully part of the
yeah,
rumble.
for sure.
Now,
We're
and I'm
really
not
big with teenagers.
no, I'm not going to judge that because that's the way it is. All right.
Yeah.
And part of that means is that they are now part of a sensationalist response, an
Yeah.
entertainment response. And so the best thing I would advise, Mark Carney, if you're listening, is to combine both those sides. Do the academic part, but get somebody, a cabinet minister of some kind, to do that part that
Mhm.
talks. Trump has proven that those voters can be a majority of voters. Unfortunate.
Well, no, I think it's fortunate. I think we have to pass the baton. I've said this every time you guys have interviewed me. It is way past time. I mean, as I said, I started to get involved in the early 80s. Come on. Where's the successorship? Look at the people who are still in Victoria who were there in the 80s in some capacity. Anyway, so I agree with you. There has to be a way to communicate to the younger voters. It will have to be through social influencers, like these influencers who come in, and I'm seeing them. They're funny. They're interesting. I am seeing more stuff, and I was an early adopter of social media. Started it to stalk my kids when they were, like, oh, they're on Facebook. I got to see what they're doing.
Yeah, right.
Then started to, use it as my own platform. I don't use it very much anymore because there's way too much algorithm monitoring and AI and all that stuff, and I don't feel comfortable with it myself, but I am watching my granddaughter start to use it, how she's using it, and the future conversation that they will be having will be these influencers, and Charlie Kirk was phenomenal, a phenomenal example of how effective that could be. Um, we would need, I think, in Canada, you see some of those guys. Aaron Gunn was very much involved in that, and you still see that. Is it Safe Streets Vancouver or whatever it is? That's very much on the right wing. I think the right wing, ironically, have been the early adopters of using social media. What I'd say the center left, whatever, and then the left wing, honestly, I agree with the people who say the woke movement went way too far the other way. Can I just mention something that's not political, but it's just my biggest beef? When people say pregnant people, there are not pregnant people. There are pregnant women. Like, I promise you that even when someone say we are pregnant, that man's body is not changing. He doesn't have hormones. He's not throwing up. Like there are pregnant women, and everybody says pregnant people, and I'm like,
Not
that to
everybody.
me.
Not
Oh
on
my
this
gosh!
show. We don't ever say
Thank
that.
you, thank you, Robin.
I've lost a
This,
bit
Anyway,
of
that's
weight. In,
we,
in, in some of my darkest corners, some people have profiled me as a pregnant person, but that's not, I get
yeah,
it. Of course you're
yeah.
right. Of course you're
No, I
right.
mean, I just think that that is part of that whole. We've changed our language to be sensitive, and that's fine. But we go too far sometimes, and we actually, um, in a way, take away from women who are going through pregnancy what it actually means to be a pregnant woman.
Well, you want to know
It's
what
a
just hearing that, Judy, I think about how hard for the last 100 years women have
yeah,
fought to be able to reach a point where they are able to hold the same jobs, have the same income, have the same
yeah,
status in society as men, and they fought so hard for the vote and they all the different rights and
yeah,
opportunities and freedoms. And to me, put, labeling everybody as a neutral is a
yeah.
disservice. It's actually
Right.
going backwards. It's terrible.
That's how I feel. And I've always felt like that. I mean, even when I was first elected in politics, I didn't want to lose the fact that I'm female. That's what I was bringing to the table. I was pregnant, had two little kids. That was a different voice. And I mean, it wasn't always a welcome voice, but today it's the thing. It's okay. We're all at the table and we're saying, so don't degender a pregnant woman. She's going through a lot. She deserves to be recognized as pregnant. Her husband is also going through a lot, but it's not the same. So anyway, that was just my way of saying left versus right conversations, social media, how we change the conversation. I think that we will see younger influencers and that even our mainstream media will start to look for younger people, right? I mean, it's ironic. We're all not in that category, but
Oh, now,
anyway,
Judy, now, don't say that.
yeah.
You're
We're
still
still
younger than we
youthful
are,
in
Judy.
mind.
You're still younger than we are. You're still younger than we are, and I don't feel
Oh
that
yeah.
old.
So
I
listen,
don't
I
we're
feel.
don't
getting
feel I
near
don't
the
feel old. I just know that my perspective is very different from my kids' perspective.
Well, no kidding.
okay. So we're
No
getting
Yeah.
near the end of our Gen X, Gen Y attention span. So I'd like to ask this question of you, my last question. You alluded a little bit to what trends are emerging, political
hmm
trends out of Vancouver.
Yeah.
You get around, you are well connected, you're networked. What are you hearing that we're not hearing or that we might be surprised at that might emerge in the next political of several political events?
Ooh, what am I hearing? I I think there's going to be a lot of demand for a complete reset of politics in BC, and that to some extent might be why the non-NDP vote isn't gelling. I think within the NDP, there's a lot more dissent than what was seen by that convention. I mean, at the end of the day, they got to support their leader because it would be crazy not to. But I'm sure we haven't talked about the Green Party. The Green Party, I think, is where the reset is going to start. You have a young leader who is very ambitious, and when you enter politics when you're young, you say a lot of things that later you learn to be a little bit more diplomatic.
That
Good
would be
for
a
her.
surprise.
Don't be diplomatic, go out and say what you mean. And I that's what I'm looking for. I keep looking to see where are the young leaders coming. And there are people who will be dissatisfied that the NDP has not spoken up for the environment. I mean, let me just extend a bit of sympathy to David Eby right now. He really is in a no-win situation when it comes to the pipeline. No win, because the NDP is a coalition that includes everybody from, the public sector unions, private sector unions, supposedly environmentalists, social justice advocates, et cetera, et cetera. So he's balancing all of this. And a lot of the private and sometimes public sector union people are kind of right wing when it comes to they want to see balanced budgets and that they don't want their taxes to go up, et cetera. They're living paycheck to paycheck, right? Then you've got the environmentalists who would like to shut down the resource sector. So, he doesn't want to lose those environmentalists to a resetting Green Party. But I think we need the Green Party to reemerge. Poor old Elizabeth May is still,
He's
carrying the
old.
flag federally. She's doing great though, hey? I mean, she's still so relevant, she can't leave. She
That's
tried
because
to
she's
bring in a
got John
code here.
helping her. That's why she's
I
doing so
talk to
well.
Elizabeth a lot over here. Oh, she
Yeah,
comes to some of the networking meetings I'm holding, and I've now paraphrased and labeled her as,
yeah,
and here's balance of power. I mean,
right.
it's pretty cool when you need the governing party needs two
Yeah,
seats, and
yeah,
he could be one of them.
yeah,
Meanwhile, half a
exactly.
dozen other MPs had to stand outside in the corridor for this budget to
Yeah.
pass.
I mean,
All,
I think Canadians knew what they were doing. I
I just
really
want to
do.
I just want to say in deference to Emily Lowen, who I is actually her family are people that my family have known for a long time, and
Oh,
I
no
wish her
Yeah.
kidding.
best as the leader of of the Green Party, but I don't know that I share your your optimism that the Green Party is going to come out anytime soon. Because frankly, I think you can campaign very favorably on the environment, and it covers an awful lot of political spectrum. There's not many people that I know in any political party who are anti-environment. Everybody's in favor of it. But what else can they offer? And that's always been a problem for the Green Party. But what I will say in conclusion here before we wrap this up is that, you know, John Horgan had his faults. Everybody makes it out like John Horgan was like the dream politician and the dream leader. It's a terrible tragedy that he died so young, and terrible way for him to go, and nothing but respect for John and all the hard work he did. But the great thing that John Horgan had was the ability to see the things he could win and the things that he couldn't, and know the difference. And when those pipelines were knocking at the door, he made a lot of noise about every tool in my toolbox to stop them, knowing full well he couldn't. And then he was more than prepared to get on board once they were moving forward. And if David Eby took a chapter out of that book, I think he'd be in way better shape. And on that note, Judy, you've just inspired us with so many things that I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but I love it, you know, and you know, you want to tag me as a Pierre Poilievre lover, I'm willing to accept it.
I mean, if the shoe fits, right?
I'm a big guy. I can take it. And it's been great to have you on the Rumble Room and to rumble with us. And we'll get you back again very soon, but probably won't be until after the holidays. So we got to wish you Merry Christmas. You're one of the first people we get to wish Merry Christmas to.
That's right, and to you both as well. I think it's going to be a very good Christmas.
Yeah, and bring on 2026. So thanks very much, Judy.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye-bye, Judy.